Undead and Married is a romantic vampire cozy mystery and is book one in Andy Lowe's Blood Bond Agency series. The series is published by Squabbling Sparrows Press and is also available in ebook and paperback.
Chapter 19. The alarm on Eva's phone startled her by shrieking to life at 10:30 that morning. She should have told Dominik they'd meet at midday. She rolled onto her side and slung her feet over the side of her king-size bed, groaning with each movement. Unlike a lot of vampires, Eva found the confines of a coffin too claustrophobic. She even tried top-of-the-line models, but it did no good. To her, it was akin to being buried alive. It would have been different if it was one of those coffins for two, and she had someone to share it with, but on her own it hadn't happened. An image of herself curled up next to Dominik filled her mind, causing her to trip over the rug next to her bed. "Snap out of it, would you? He's your cousin for Vlad's sake." Her words bounced back at her from the double-lined brick walls of her sleeping chamber, leaving her pleased no one was around to hear her talking to herself. She dressed with care. Not to impress Dominik, but to fit in with the humans going about their day. A pair of jeans, a black t-shirt, and a leather jacket. Her boots were also leather and without a heel. Practical, utilitarian, and perfect for running in or lashing out as required. She caught her long silver hair in a low plait she stuffed down the back of her jacket. To further hide its distinct color, she pulled on a beaten-up cap, promoting the world tour of a long-disbanded rock group. Before she unlocked the heavy oak door of her sleeping chamber and slipped out into the hallway, she took care to tamp down her energy, sealing it tight. The last thing she needed when undertaking some breaking and entering was her signature melding with Dominik's. She was in reception and pacing when Dominik yanked on the bell out front. If this were a date, she would keep him waiting. But it wasn't, and so she inched the door open to find him ready to yank on the bell pull again. "Oh, you're ready. I'm not used." His eyes widened as he took in the snug fit of her jeans and tight t-shirt. Her love life non-existent as it was, she was out of practice dealing with a man looking at her like this. She was mortified to find she liked it. He was her cousin or something. And anyway, he was dressed similarly, so he couldn't talk. Eva refused to cower, instead holding her arms wide and giving him a twirl. "Deal with it. I want to fit in with the locals." While Sebastian might be busy counting sheep, the same isn't true of that idiot chief of police. Even with Dominik blocking the doorway, Eva had glimpsed Captain Hugo standing on the front steps of the station. This had her grabbing Dominik's hand and dragging him inside, pleased to find his energy as dampened as her own. Could it be she wasn't alone in being affected? With no way of knowing without asking him outright, she instead slammed the door and locked it. "We can go out the back way." "The back way?" Dominik looked over his shoulder, staring through the small glass panel near the top of the front door. "But Love Bites is on the other side of the square. I thought we could walk around a bit before breaking in away from prying eyes." Eva shook her head, already on her way to the steps leading to the basement. "The Chronicle isn't over there. I've already checked." Dominik's eyes darkened as he followed her. "You went into that den of iniquity on your own? Do you have any idea what goes on over there?" His harsh tone was enough to stop her dead. She'd even opened her mouth to tell him what she thought of his vampsplaining how bad Love Bites was, before deciding against it. If she told him how she knew the Chronicle wasn't there, she also had to reveal she could sense its location. Everyone in her family could, even her missing-in-action father. She hoped this was still the case, because whatever magic Sebastian used to steal it meant she hadn't detected the document when he'd walked right by her with it. Despite analyzing all this, her pause before answering Dominik was brief. Just as she could sense the location of the Chronicle, she could also sense she could trust this man. "I didn't need to enter. I could tell it wasn't there from outside." Of course, this relied on the theory Sebastian had to be touching the relic for it to be energetically invisible to her. If the magic he'd used had wiped the energy signature altogether, then she'd have no reservations in tearing his home to bits the old-fashioned way. Heck, with the thorn in her side that he was, she'd even enjoy it. She waited until Dominik nodded his acceptance of her explanation before speaking again. No, there's only one place he'll have hidden the chronicle, and that's where we're going today. Dominik looked at the dark stairwell, and then back to the front door. And how do you plan on getting from here up to Sebastian's? I do own a vehicle, you know. And I'll bet it's one that blends in better than the monster you drive. Not waiting for him to argue, Eva started down the stairs. Seconds later, Dominik followed her. The two of them walking through the quiet building together was a strange experience for Eva. She'd never been down here with a man who wasn't a relation. First, Georgia forbade it. Second, Eva hadn't met a man she trusted enough. It was for this reason she didn't bother hiding the code required to access the large garage that backed into the lane behind the building. You cannot be serious? Dominik stared aghast at the vehicle that dominated the large space. I'm not driving that? Eva looked at the dark purple VW van and back at Dominik. What's wrong with her? Her? Let me guess, she has a name, right? Eva smiled. Don't all cars? But you're right, you won't be driving her. I will. Not giving him an opportunity to argue, Eva opened the driver's door and climbed in. Manually rolling the window down, she grinned at him. Come on, what are you waiting for? It'll be fun. Certainly, she'd always found it so since buying the fun bus new in 1963. Dominik snorted at her assertion. Fun? Yeah, sure it will. The rock wall backing the property rumbled to one side, and Eva reversed out into the alley. A quick press of the remote clipped to the visor, and the wall rolled back into place. Dominik looked at it. Wow, if I hadn't seen it, I'd never have believed it. Eva quirked her head in his direction. Sometimes the old ideas are the best. He nodded his acceptance of this. Before we head up to Sebastian's, we need to get something to drink. If this goes down how I'm thinking, we'll need the calories. Eva hissed. She'd given no thought to sustenance. We've got plenty back at the agency. I can have us back there before you can say be positive. No, we're all good. Take a left up here. I know a place. Perhaps it was the lack of details, but Eva suspected the place Dominik was talking about was more of a whom. She hadn't drunk straight from a human in a good long time. It grossed her out in a big way, as it was too intimate for her liking. It would be like a human getting their milk straight from the cow, rather than out of a bottle. To her mind, it was revolting. Just pull into that lane there, Dominik instructed. Eva did as she was told, but she wasn't happy about it. It must be something Dominik picked up on. You want to tell me what's wrong because something is? It's just that, Eva gulped. Yes? It's just that drinking from humans turns my stomach. Instead of calling her weak, Dominik burst out laughing. And you won't be today. Pull into that parking garage there. Again, Eva did as told, mollified that she wouldn't have to watch him slurping on some gorgeous human. Like a lot of male vampires, she got the distinct impression that Dominik would only get his meals from female donors. After she parked and turned the engine off, Dominik jumped out. Eva opened her door to follow, but he held his hand up. I'll be back in a second. We can eat on our way. Do you have any preferences? Oh, positive will be fine. Seriously? You don't want something more, I don't know, top shelf? We have everything here. Part of Eva still couldn't believe she wouldn't be drinking straight from the source. She had a bit of a soft spot for humans, and not in a handy snack kind of way. Okay, if you must know, the bank belongs to the Zilonka family. So Eva, what can I get you? Any reservations pushed to one side, Eva licked her lips. I'd love an AB negative if they've got it. They sure do. Hang tight, I won't be long. He was true to his word, returning in less than 2 minutes, holding a couple of bags of the good stuff. He handed them to her before strolling around the front of the vehicle and climbing back in. She checked the labels on the opaque plastic bags to see which one was hers, surprised to see that both bags were the same blood type. Considering how rare it was, for them to be drinking it as a last-minute meal felt wrong on many counts. Were the Zilonka family so rich that they could afford to stock their blood bank with the rarest of the rare? It would appear so if the negligent way Dominik took the bags off her and jammed sharp metal straws into them was any indicator. Once Eva had the vehicle back on the road, he handed over her bag of blood and she took her first sip. She'd only had this blood type once before, on her 30th birthday. She thought it was simply her untrained palate that made it feel so invigorating. Now she knew that wasn't the case. The blood was magical. And sharing this time with Dominik made it even more so. 15 minutes later, Eva had finished her snack, and they'd just passed Sebastian's house in the hills overlooking the town. The way had been winding, with Eva grinding through the gears. She could tell it was wearing thin on Dominik as he ground his teeth in concert. "Relax, would you? When we park along a bit and cut through the forest, no one will think twice about seeing Gertie parked here on her own. They'll think we're out for a hike." Dominik turned and looked at her, slowly shaking his head. "Gertie? Seriously?" She ignored him, turning back to face the road, searching for a spot to pull over. Sure enough, around the next corner, there was a large clearing on the side of the road away from Sebastian's place. Eva parked the vehicle close to the tree line, and they shoved the remains of their meal under the front seats before clambering out. Eva locked everything up nice and tight. When she pushed the remote on the key fob and heard the familiar beep beep, Dominik burst into laughter once again. "Seriously, you're worried someone will steal her?" Eva had to admit he had a point. The chances were slim, but not impossible. "Hey, the last thing we need, if we have to leave in a hurry, is to return and find someone has taken my Gertie." Yeah. And the last thing we'll need if we want to leave in a hurry is Gertie." Eva pocketed the keys while glaring at him. If she didn't need his help as much as she did, she would leave him standing there and he could make his own way back to town. To be fair, he would doubtless get there before her. She was ready to cross the road when Dominik grabbed her hand and swung her back to face the forest behind them. "Leggett, there's something coming and I recognize the engine." Not waiting for her to comply, he dragged her across the expanse of gravel and into the bushes, hiding them from view. They didn't have long to wait. Eva peered through the undergrowth at the cruiser that had pulled up next to Gertie. "Captain Hugo? What's he doing out here?" Dominik didn't answer, watching the scene as intently as she was. Nothing happened. Then the police captain opened his door and hauled himself out of the cruiser, before standing and pulling up his low-slung pants. It was a challenge with his stomach in the way. He rounded the front of his car and walked over to the VW van. First, he looked in the windows at the back, before peering through both the passenger's and driver's side windows. He even cupped his eyes and looked through the windshield. It was a good thing they had hidden those empty blood bags under their seats. Eva knew there was nothing in the van that could link it to her or the agency. There was nothing personal in it, and the registration was to a relative so distant as to be untraceable. As far as the police were concerned, Gertie belonged to a tourist. It was a long 5 minutes before the captain climbed back into his cruiser and left the way he came. It was an action that had Dominik glowering. "What's wrong?" Eva asked. He didn't answer, but when she went to get to her feet, he put his hand on her shoulder, keeping her right where she was. "Don't you think it's strange the captain turned up when he did?" "I guess so, although we're not that far from town." "And that he didn't drive on, but left in the same direction he arrived in?" Eva didn't speak, not because she didn't know the answer, but because she did.
If you've enjoyed this chapter, we'd love it if you could give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to continue the story, you can subscribe and tap the bell to be notified when the next chapter is released.